Flexing ain't discreet about it. Extra read about it. Say you wanna beef about it. We gon' come and see about it. Flexing ain't discreet about it.
What is up, everybody?
Welcome back to the Outlier Podcast.
I guess we're going to be a podcast at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this one truly is going to be a shorter one. I know we said that last time and it ended up being about almost an hour. But we're going to make it short and sweet today. I wanted to go over rent versus buy. Use local homes. They're actively listed right now as examples. In the same subdivision, similar homes, as close to as we could get to exact, replica, I guess. And then we're also going to do a little reaction stuff today of some bad and good advice.
Yeah, luckily that we did find some good ones. And I will say I am actually proud because I was expecting when we were doing our search for the last hour of looking through all these TikToks and stuff, we found significantly more videos of good advice than bad advice. So I will say a year plus ago, that was not the case. I noticed anecdotally, when I scroll, I'll see something like, what the hell are they talking about? This is not true, or this is a horrible idea. More so today, we're like, okay, that was good. Okay.
Yeah, I was actually getting frustrated because I was like, shoot, that's exactly how we advise people. I can't add into this.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a catch-22. I'm glad this video has, 16,000 likes because it's good advice, but we can't add anything to it. So, dang.
Yep. So, why don't you bring up the first one? First one we'll talk about. So we're going to do the rent versus buy first. These are local homes, both in the same subdivision in Grand Blanc, okay? And let me just preface by saying everybody's situation is different. For some people, it makes sense to buy, even when we go into the math here. Really comes down to longevity. Like if you're going to be in the house and you will be, which is hard to know, but if you're like, okay, I'm going to be in here for 10 plus years, it's not a bad buy, let's say. But for those of you that are like, this is going to be a year or two for me, you're better off renting.
And if you can financially do it, right, because home pricings over the next few years, I think they're going to continue going up, right, especially as we're seeing interest rates decrease a little bit. We're going to see a surge of a ton of buyers come back into the market, and it's going to repeat the craze of 2021. In 2022, right?
I just lost out on a purchase of a home with a client because we already are. It's only middle of January, and it was, above asking, appraisal guarantees, all the crazy stuff we saw in 2022 is back. So,
yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So if you can pull up this first one here. So this one is for rent. So just in terms of basic facts for you, unfortunately, we do not have interior pictures on this one. I'm assuming because tenants are currently living there. We know this house.
Yeah, I know. I used to have a childhood friend who lived in this house that I played baseball with, remember?
Yeah, that's right.
They were there for a while. I don't know if they moved as of recently or if they're still homeowners or what, but it's a nice house. And again, this was a long time ago. There may have been updates, may have not been updates, but it's a nice house.
So with that said, it's in a neighborhood we are very familiar with. We grew up in this neighborhood. And just for stats for you. So this house right here is 2745 square feet, 4 bed, 3 bath, 2 full, 1 half to be exact, 2-car garage, basement, built in 1962, pretty decent sized lot, 0.41 acres, and in a good school district, blah, 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 blah. Again, don't know the interior facts on this one in terms of cosmetics or mechanicals, but for the sake of the argument, how much are they asking for rent on this one?
$2,500
a month, which makes sense. I think that's fairly low. But there was another one in the same sub. I didn't use it because it's a ranch, and I'm trying to be as exact as we possibly can. But there's another one in the same subdivision that was going for like $2,300 a month. So they're kind of right in there. So easy enough. Renting, maintenance stuff that's on the landlord. You're not paying property taxes. You are paying utilities probably. So let's say, with utilities and everything else, you're probably all in for about $2,800 a month. Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I think that's actually I think it's a good deal for that house.
Yeah, it's a big house. So now let's pull up the sale version of this house. All right, so in the same subdivision, obviously a little bit nicer in terms of the aesthetics on the exterior, and we actually have interior pictures. It's a nice house. You got, granite countertops, hardwood, some outdated things too.
Mm-hmm. Carpet's looking a little rough.
Yep. You got the old fireplace facade, which some people like it, to each their own. Dining room. So the stats on this one, just for perspective, square footage 2,920 square feet. So a little bit bigger than the last one, by 200 square feet. And for your realtors and other agents out there, you'll recognize that, most of the time we do the pricing off of the price per square foot. That's why the square footage number is really so important. Okay. So 200 more square feet. Keep that in mind. It's been on the market for a long time. It's been on for going on 5 months.
Mm-hmm. I remember this house because we looked at this as a comp for another listing.
We did.
That we were, won't mention here, but.
Yep. And, based on what it looks like, and it's a big house. It has a 3-car garage, basement, blah, blah, blah.
A little bit more acreage.
They're overpriced, right? I mean, especially if they're sitting this long. And there's, who knows what the factors are involved in that. But I went and did math because I like math. You like math. Math makes the world go round. Mm-hmm. So I'm using averages. Okay, keep in mind. I'm really going off of, I had a client sent me a new pre-approval today, and she has great credit, so she is like as good as it gets for conventional mortgage. Okay. So she was hovering at right about 6.3. So I'm going to say, let's use 6.7 as a good middle ground for those that have lower credit, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So using 6.7 as the interest rate. That's what we're going off of using this math. If you can pull up, start at the 350. And I was even generous, you guys. They were asking 372.9 for this house. I'm under the assumption it will not sell for that, being that it's been on that this long. So I even dropped it. I did a couple ways. So this one is at purchase price of $350. Okay. And I'm using 5% down payment because that's kind of the average for these conventional loans. You can obviously do more. I would recommend doing more if you can afford it. But for the sake of this example, let's just say 5%. Loan at 6.7%, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So your monthly payment is $3,151. Okay, that does include taxes. That does include insurance. Just so you guys know, I did insurance for a year, about $1,400 a year. It's kind of the average. And then I used the new taxes for this house, which that'll be a different video. But currently, the current homeowner is paying roughly $4,500 in taxes. Whoever buys this house is going to be paying closer to $8,400 in taxes. And again, it goes for another video. Don't need to get into all that now. But so this does not include utilities, like we added to the rental side,
which we added about $300 for utilities.
Let's do it for this one. So now we're at almost $1,000 more a month than the rent version of this, right? Well,
a little less,
that.
But yeah,
check that. We'd be at like $3,400 a month for this. The other one was like $2,800.
Yes, about $700, $600, $700-ish difference.
Yeah, yep. And then this also, look at the bring to close number. So this is your down payment. This is closing costs. This is, 14 months of insurance, taxes prorated, everything else. You got to come to the closing table with almost $26,500. Okay. So again, like I prefaced before, everybody's situation is different. Okay. Now, if you drop it down now to home price of $330. Again, I wanted to be generous. So now we're at $40,000 less than what they're asking for this house. And I just wanted to use the same metrics we did before. Same interest rates, same taxes, obviously, same insurance. And, even though it's $20,000 difference in price, not that much of a difference in your payment, right? And it's because it's stretched over 30 years.
Yep.
Right? So
about $135 a month, something like that, $133 a month.
Yeah. And so, like, if you're paying cash, big savings there. I mean, you save 20 grand. But when you do the mortgage for 30 years, and this is a routine thing we have with clients about concessions versus drop in price of the home, concessions more than likely are more beneficial to them because it helps that bring the close number as opposed to saving $30 a month on their mortgage payment, you know? So with all that said, even at $330, it's still more expensive than the rental version of it, right?
And 25,000 bring to close.
And 25 bring to close. And then again, you don't have a landlord taking care of the maintenance for you. You are the landlord. You're handling if that furnace goes out and everything else. Check out our buyer checklist to, you know, for our opinions on that and setting yourself up for success. So I'm gonna throw it to you, okay? You look at this, and again, keep in mind, people's situations are different. What would you do if you're in the market to buy a house, and let's say this is something you're kind of looking for, of this type of home, and you see the one at $2,500 of renting, and then this here to purchase?
Well, if I'm looking at this, then I'm also, based on my ideology, that I am approved for $500,000, and I'm looking at $330. Okay, because that's something I can definitely afford first and foremost.
That's a damn good point.
Okay, so I think too often people are approved for $350 and they buy a house for $350. Okay, and both of us have gone on a lot of rants about this. Stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. The Joneses are broke. Okay, you have to secure your mask first. And when the plane's going down, put your oxygen mask on first. You're not putting your neighbors on, right? Yeah. So if this was my situation, kind of the ballpark, if I'm looking at, I'm also pre-qualifying myself that I'm approved for $500,000. I've got $100,000 cash, and this mortgage is less than 25% of my take-home pay. Okay, that's my personal thing, right? Yeah. Since asking, personal opinion here. The thing is, as well, is how long am I going to hold this? Again, if I'm trying to hold this for 5 years, I think that's not a great idea. I would be better off taking that $25,000 and some, and also the difference of what I would be paying in the mortgage versus renting somewhere else. I'd be taking that whole big lump sum over the next 5 years. And I'm not a financial advisor, but I would either talk to a financial advisor and put it into a non-qualified account, or I would put it into a high yield savings account. Okay. And then now, 5 years from now, when I'm in a more long-term situation of looking for a home, something more stable of I want to buy this home for the long term, I also have more cash in my pocket now. Okay. That's how I would look at it personally. I think there's a stigma around renting. Obviously, I want everybody that's feasible for to own a home and who have those goals that line up with owning a home. But don't put a round peg in a square hole where, I can buy a house, but should you buy a house?
So I'm going to play devil's advocate just to make it more interesting. Yeah. Because the counter argument, which I somewhat understand, and it does make sense, of okay, well, let's say you don't buy now, you're wasting your money to somebody else's mortgage, okay, with you paying rent, where you could be more or less paying yourself back, is the way it's termed. So there's argument number one. Argument number two is okay, well, when these rates drop even more, this house is going to be $400,000, not $370,000. So, what's your counter?
And the cool thing is because my logic is stable, it still goes back to the thing of this is if I can afford it, I can do it. But don't stretch yourself too far to try and make yourself afford it now, because even though you probably can't or shouldn't, right? Because again, that goes back to that's a very good argument, right? That's a very, very good thing. And that really depends on your long-term goals. That's really what it comes down to, is what are your long-term goals? Example, I lived in Arizona for 5 years. I knew Arizona wasn't my forever. Therefore, I was not looking to buy a house in Arizona, right? So that's the big question you got to ask yourself first is, what are my long-term goals? B, okay, what's my DTI? What consumer debt do I have? What's my income? Is there, talk to a lender, figure out what you're approved for, figure out if that meets what your long-term goals are. And then from there, if you need more time, we have a home buyer boot camp. A, B, just start getting on that plan and working with an outlier agent of, okay, so it's going to take 12 months and I'm going to get X amount savings per month, given this budget, pay X amount on debt. And I'm going to be in a lot better situation where a year from now, I'm approved for $500,000 and I can look at this $330,000 house at this high interest rate, still afford it as it is today. And then when interest rates drop, guess what? That's just even better.
I couldn't agree more. I was even going to take it one step further again, you said it best. Everybody's situation is different. I just want to make that clear. This is not just a broad stroke of like, hey, it's not a great time to buy right now. For some people, it probably is. But for most of you guys, especially the ones that you're feeling the pressure of, well, I gotta buy something, that's the American dream, and I'm getting to that point in my life of adulthood where my friends are buying houses and blah. Don't get caught in that trap, okay? Because at the end of the day, let's say it is only, and the average person lives in their first home between 5 and 7 years. Okay, that's kind of the average. I would much rather, and again, we are not financial advisors by any means. We have people we can refer you to if you are interested in that side of things. But speaking from experience, I would rather take the rental property at $2,500 a month, take that $600-$700 a month that I'm saving as opposed to what my payment would be if I bought, plus the $25,000. Don't forget that. And now you can invest in, then, like you said, a qualified account.
You can max out your Roth IRA, and guess what? Something for your traditional IRA. As well is, and again, not a financial advisor, but I worked at an investment firm setting up these accounts every single day. Worked with financial advisors. So again, talk to a licensed financial advisor. I am not one, but research this for yourself. It's right on the IRS website. For a traditional IRA account, right, goes for Roth and traditional. If you make a withdrawal, if you're younger than, 59 and a half, then on top of the taxes, if you're in traditional IRA, you have to pay a 10% penalty. Roth, same thing, 10% penalty, but you already paid your taxes, therefore you don't have to pay taxes. But you have the 10% penalty. However, there are 4 classifications that if you're using that withdrawal for one of those 4 classifications, you do not have to pay that 10% penalty. Buying a home is one of them.
Tell me more.
Yes. So that's the thing. You can take that X amount of money, that's $700 a month, which they're actually raising the max contribution limit for IRAs this year and years following. So you can take that $500, $600, $700 a month, invest that into your IRA, do that for a few years, and also do that. That's just a strategy. Again, not prescribing that to everybody. That's just a different way of looking at things as well, right? And I mean, what I think, you said a point of like, home ownership, that's the American dream. I think that's part of the American dream. I think ultimately what the American dream is financial freedom, and home ownership is one pathway that gets you to financial freedom, but don't put yourself into a financial hole thinking that house equals American dream.
For sure. If a better thing is, if you're using the example we use of 5% down, if that's all you can afford as your down payment, you're probably not in a position to buy a house.
Or that house.
Yeah, maybe a different house at a different price point. Good point. But so I'm not trying to crap on buying a home versus renting a home because I've done both. And again, it's to each their own. Everybody's situation is different. I'm just trying to stress like, hey, if you're not in the position to buy a house right now, you're fine, because I even did the math. Do you know what interest rate we would need today for that house to be the same monthly payment as the rental version?
Let's see, you did at 6, 7, probably 5.
5 right on the nose.
Quick math.
So, and unless I'm wrong, which I hope I'm not wrong, we're probably not going to see 5 until middle to end of next year. Okay.
Hopefully.
In which case, if you are one of these people, and we've said it before, buying under the assumption that these rates are going to drop, you're making a bad decision. Okay. You buy under the understanding that I can afford this now, and if rates drop, even better. That's even a better position, but I know I'm good regardless. That's how you need to approach purchasing a home.
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
All right, so now some reaction videos.
Okay. Is there any order you want me to go into specifically, just top down?
Just throw it up, and That way I'm kind of shocked too because I can't remember some of these.
Most common mistake I see people make when buying real estate is just being hell bent on this idea of putting 20% down. The reality is, you really shouldn't put 20% down unless you absolutely have to. Here's the reason why. Because for every $10,000 you put down, it's really only lowering your payment about $50 a month. So it's not really making that big of a difference. You're really better off keeping that money to pay off debt, make other investments, or just keep it for emergencies.
Hold on. I wanna or do that before you're going to buy your house, and do this beforehand rather than put 5% down or 3.5% down rather than the 20% plus that you realistically, objectively should do. I understand the sentiment of what you're trying to do. It's social media, it's clickbaity, it's, this, that, and the other. But it goes back to, at least my mentality is, prep yourself first. You will have so much less stress.
Like you just said, I get what he's saying, like I do, but it's just not great advice in that, for one, when you don't put 20% down, you have PMI. So you're already paying, let's say, it depends on the price and everything, but $150 to $200 additional per month than you wouldn't if you had 20% down. Okay, so that's for one. For two, yeah, I mean, let's just be honest here, and I hope you guys are different. I think you are. You're watching this. Of the average person is going to take that and forget the investing and the other. And the
payoff
They're
debt.
just going to say, oh, 5%, cool. I'm going to go save take the other 15% and buy a new Benz or whatever. That's where it gets into trouble.
And now their mortgage payment is 50% of their take home.
Exactly.
And they have no versatility with their income to actually scale. Now they're house poor. Great, you own a $330,000 house, but you have no money left over at the end of every month, and you have all this extra debt. That's, for me, for some people it may work. Most people it won't.
And that's my thing, is just like there's not enough I know what he's saying, and I get it because I understand the nuances, but to the broad majority, they don't get the nuances. That's why we're here. And he didn't talk about PMI, and I just hate this. This is a common thread of, like, they do this quick math, and I've fallen victim to it, especially early on. You see like somebody on YouTube and you're like, okay, well, you're just under the assumption that the math is right and they've vetted it and everything else. But it's like, half the time it's not. Like, I see this all the time where you do like a mortgage calculator thing and you'll get down into these pre-calculated numbers. Like I did one today doing this math, okay? And it starts out at 3% interest. And it's like, if you don't know and you do the math, you're like, oh, shoot, I can afford this house. Or they'll use the current taxes, not the new taxes. And in this case, it almost doubled, okay? Or this is another one. Oh, homeowners is $30 a month. I don't know of anywhere that's cheap. Your average is about $110, $120 a month. And again, that depends on the house and everything else. So it's like, I just hate these just insincere numbers people throw out and spout out because they look great, they sound great, and there's a reason. It's because they're BS.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? It immediately made me think of car commercials, where car commercials like, get this new Dodge, blah, 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 $1,500 for $600 a month. And then you fine print after you put down $8,000. And it's like, so you get the people in the door and they're like, test driving the car. Like, I'm in sales. I get it. I've been in sales for 8 years. Okay. I get it. Right. They get in there. Oh, well, you know what? I can't afford $1,000 a month. I can do it. I don't have $8,000 to put down. Let's just go with a 10% interest rate on this new car. Like, they emotionally get you. Right. And the house is probably the most emotional decision you'll ever make in your life. The most emotional purchase you will ever make is a home. Don't get duped.
Yeah. And I guess to that thread is like, just make sure, whether it be an outlier agent or another agent, because there are other good agents out there, make sure you vet them, make sure they're good and they're really taking care of you and looking out for your interests. Same goes with mortgage lenders and everything else. Okay. Next one.
All right, let's check out this next one.
All
dress code in real estate. We don't really have a set dress code, and honestly, you are your own business card, right? If you don't look the part, why are they going to hire you? So be comfortable, but be smart. If you are looking at land, don't show up in stilettos. If you are looking at residential properties, don't come in rain boots. Be professional, represent yourself well, and people will hire you.
This is good advice. And this is just something that grinds my gears, man. I know you hear me talk about it all the time. I cannot tell you guys how many times I've showed up to a closing and either the other agent isn't there. That's one that happens far too often. Okay. And to my clients, like one in particular I'm thinking of right now where I wasn't at the closing, there's a reason for that. Okay. So stuff happens. I get it. But by and large, be at the closing with your client. Okay. Number one. Number two, dress the part, okay? Do not show up in Jordans and a beanie and leggings. You look ridiculous. What are you wearing? You are a professional in the finance space.
Yeah. And again, to you, this is just another closing. To your client, this is the biggest purchase of their life. And you're going to sit there again and show up. I mean, I've seen too many pictures that you've shown me on social media. That's guy or girl. So this literally is no different. But it's like leggings or sweats and Air Force Ones and a little sweatshirt and a hat or a beanie. It's like, you look like an idiot. You look so unprofessional that I as a potential client would look at that and be like, what? You can't even dress yourself properly. Therefore, what goes on in your head of organizational skills where you don't even care about what you look like? How are you going to care about my finances?
And this has been something that was just ingrained in us early on from our mom of like, you need to dress the part, right? So, day one, I used to even I don't do this anymore, but I would even do showings in a suit, just showings, because kind of the fake it till you make it type of thing. And I just wanted to look professional because I didn't know what I know now. And not to say that I don't dress professionally now, but I always show up in a closing in a suit. Every single time, okay? And it's so bad that I have one closing in particular. Shout out Anthony DeJean down in Troy. He's a killer. He's doing a lot of business. I hope you see this. I was a young agent, okay? I'm sitting there with my client, got my suit on, everything else. In walks Anthony DeJean, and the other agent's there too, not dressed that well, okay? He walks in with a three-piece suit, doing his thing, looking like a boss he is. He walks past the other agent, goes to shake my hand, and says, "Thank you for dressing in a suit." Because he, like me, sees that far too often it doesn't happen. And that's, a number of things in real estate. The bar is set down here when it should be here at least as a minimum. Outlier, we're up here. But it just grinds my gears, man. I just can't. I don't get it.
It's ridiculous. There's no excuse for it. There's absolutely no excuse. The only excuse I would be lenient on is someone who's getting into real estate and it's their first closing and they don't have a lot of money to buy that. You know what? And guess what? If you're in that situation, you're an outlier, talk to us because we still will make arrangements so that doesn't happen. But that's the one and only situation where I will say, okay, I could understand that. At least don't come up in leggings. At least try and wear some nice pants and some type of, nice shirt or like a little bit something. But like I see these somewhat tenured agents that you show me, and I just there's this one picture in particular. You already know what I'm talking about. Leggings and Air Force Ones, and it was comical to me. It was so comical. Like, what is this, a sorority? Are you kidding me? Is this picture day your sorority? Meanwhile, your client is spending $350,000 on their first home. Is the biggest purchase they've ever had to do in their life, and they look at some 22-year-old girl wearing leggings and Air Force Ones, and wow, we're putting our financial future in her advice.
Yeah, and even like you said before, it goes for dudes too.
Absolutely, that's just this picture in particular was a woman, but. Dudes, absolutely too. I'm not gonna say it's just women. It is all age ranges. It is both sexes. It is 100%. There are no barring factors here. That is one type of person. It is one type of agent. No matter what your demographics are, if you come to a closing, first off, if you don't come to a closing, that's a problem. Second off, if you come to a closing wearing sweatpants or leggings and tennis shoes and a beanie. Get out of here. What are you doing? It's ridiculous.
100%. 100%. But yeah, I guess, is there one more? Or
Two more.
Okay, cool.
This is how I get exposure as a new real estate agent. As an agent, the main goal is to get leads and to get appointments. So one way that I like to do that is by cold calling agents. I'm going to show you exactly what I do and how I get exposure.
I want to start off by creating an MLS search with coming soon and active listings. Select 20 listings you want to cold call and repeat the process over again.
Once you get your list, you want to call every single listing agent on your list and ask them if you can host an open house for them. A few tips for this is that you want to make sure that you have a prompt ready. You also want to make sure that you are looking at every single detail in that MLS to make sure that no one is vacant and that you can contact the listing agent. You're going to talk to hundreds of agents and the majority of them are going to say no, but you have to find the right person that's going to say yes to you. If they say no, I just delete the listing from my list and then move on to the next one. If they don't answer, I send a voicemail and I send a professional email. You kind of just have to keep calling until that one person says yes.
Okay, so this one's interesting. One, I'm going to admire her hustle, okay? That's not an easy thing to do. Cold calling sucks. And, let me first applaud her effort, okay? Now, unless it's vastly different in California, I think it said Orange County on the MLS there, that is not how it works here. I'll tell you right now. Do open houses. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is there's no way in hell if another brokerage calls me and for another agent says, hey, can I do an open house at your listing? No. What are you talking about? Get your own listing.
I'd laugh and hang up on them.
Yeah, I'd be like, I have agents for that myself here at the brokerage. Like, what are you talking
And
about?
also, they're probably coming with me. If they're coming because they want training, they're coming with me and I'm helping train them and point stuff out. I'm not just going to let some random agent, some XYZ broker come do my open house.
Not only do you open yourself to a ton of liability, but now you're relying on somebody else that you had no touch on their training. You don't even really know who this person is, and they're representing your listing for you.
And they're going to get your leads of buyers that are coming in the door that don't have representation.
Exactly. So, again, admire the hustle. It's just, I don't know what the hell, how that works.
Dude, that to me is just insane that, again, she's probably young in the game. I don't know her age or anything, but just new to the game. And again, it might be different in California, but I don't see how it could be. I think, if anything, it'd be more competitive there because those home values are a lot higher and the cost of living is significantly higher. And they're going to basically, goodbye. Why? No.
And this is kind of an ancillary point real quick, but there's been a thing going on locally here where some agents don't like other agents sharing the listing on social media and stuff. I think that's ridiculous. That's just, the listing is there and you're just sharing it for your friends, and that's just free promotion in my head. This is different than hosting an open house. Let's just be clear about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, because this is another thing as well. Just let's tie these 2 points together, okay? We say yes, right? You come to our open house and you're dressed in sweatpants and Air Force Ones. You're going to piss me off. You're going to piss me off. And I don't know who you are. I don't know what advice you're telling our clients, right? You're Ramsey Trusted Pro. We have a home buyer boot camp. We're all about putting yourselves in the right financial position to buy a home. And then you're now talking to all these buyers coming through the open house and you're representing us.
Well, and that's just, is I have a fiduciary responsibility to my seller, okay? You don't, as this random outside broker person. You have no tie to my seller. So who's to say you can't just crap on my broker? Who's to say you can't crap on the house? You could take it any way you wanted. It's just, what a disaster. So, I guess to each their own. You can try this thing. But if you call me, I'd laugh in your face.
Yeah. This is something I just thought about as well. How do I not know that someone on your team or you has a listing down the street that you're trying to sell over mine? Right? And you're trying to push these buyers away to go down the street to your listing where you guys get that sale. Right? It's just ridiculous. I will say I do admire her hustle. She's trying to think of ways to get ahead and to do some work. I can separate that from the totally horrendous idea that should never be done by anybody else ever again in real estate.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, let's look at this last one.
Did you
know that if you're buying a home, working with a realtor is free? Realtors' commissions are paid by the seller, not the buyer. So I recommend hiring an experienced realtor because it can only benefit you to hire a professional.
Hire an experienced realtor, unlike her.
Yeah, if she worked for me, I'd call her as soon as I saw this and be like, you need to delete this right away because we are going to get sued. Okay? Let's be frank. Real estate agents and realtors, this is our job. Okay? We do make money. To her point, most of the time, the sellers pay the commission. But that is not guaranteed. Okay, I just want to make that clear. There's a massive lawsuit going on based on this same logic of, oh, you don't worry about it, the seller pays me. And then it gets to the end and the seller's like, why am I paying that agent? And why am I forced to pay this commission? And so things are, it's still in the works right now. But if an agent tells you that, they're lying, okay? On top of like the commission thing, we do have a broker transaction fee, okay? And that is not paid by the seller. That is paid by the client. And as an outlier agent, we discuss that with you right away in part of the buyer agency agreement, okay? It's not paid till closing, but that's not free, right?
No. Nope.
Also have costs of inspection and costs of appraisal, and then obviously closing costs and everything else. So I get what she's trying to do. And with that said, she's not wrong. Get representation because you pay the pro for a reason, right?
Get experienced representation that won't tell you that.
Yeah, and like I feel bad for her, and I don't know, maybe she obviously didn't know about this NAR lawsuit going on, but bad advice.
Horrible advice. And it's just, that just seems so slimy to me even. And again, I've been in sales for 8 years. I work in the tech industry of sales, talking to attorneys, buying software, and being a consultant for them. And first off, that's just not my selling strategy at all. I know for sure it's not yours. Ours is consultative and conversational. That's how I would describe it. Where that seems so sleight of hand, right? It's just like, don't worry about that. The seller's going to pay me. Don't worry about that. I'm just here to
free at the goodwill of my own heart.
Yeah, it's like, come on, dude, come on. It is absurd. It seems slimy sales tactic to me, because what that also tells me, if I were that client, first I'd be like, okay, they're lying to me about this. What else are they lying to me about? Are they just trying to look at me as a paycheck? Are they not going through like the processes that you go through and we're telling you just go through here of pointing stuff out, those 5 most important things, for buyers? Things like that. It's like you're lying about that, which is so simple and just like everybody just knows. Like obviously, it's like your real estate agents don't work for free. Okay, so just sit there and lie about that. That just puts a slimy taste in my mouth, and I would just be like, we're done.
And I'm gonna give her a benefit of the doubt. I don't think she was lying. I think she just was naive and doesn't know the nuance of that. Because again, like I said before, is like typically the other side is paying for the buyer's agent commission. That is true. But you cannot guarantee that. And that's why our buyer's broker agency agreement even references this of like, hey, we are going to try to get the seller to pay commission. In the event they don't, you're paying us this commission. Like it spells it right out for this reason. So again, make sure you're working with a pro.
Yeah, and you're right. I will give her the benefit of the doubt. I don't think she was intentionally lying or anything like that. But also, this actually to connect a few other points we've talked about today. I think there's too many people in the industry that look at real estate as just like it's okay. It's like, you have a fiduciary responsibility. This is financial market. This is a financial asset. Again, working for an investment firm, working with, advisors that have hundreds of millions of dollars of AUM. If I saw them acting like this, which real estate agent is adjacent to that same mentality, the same interactions with clients, the same fiduciary responsibilities, it is still assets. It's still, if these advisors did that, first off, they'd have no business. They also would have no employment. Nobody would hire them. So it's like, calling out the agents, for who aren't dressing the part and who are saying bad advice like this. It would also call out the brokers. Have a better standard. Have a better standard, because when you have new agents coming in the door like that, let's say she's in real estate game for a year, 2 years, I blame her broker more than her for not telling her this stuff and for not setting a standard. I mean, we've been doing tons of interviews recently, and it's like, we have a standard here at Outlier. It's like you will not be showing up to a closing wearing this or that. At the end of the day, you're a 1099. You can do what you want, but we can also fire you if you do not adhere to our company standards. So it's like call out to these brokers. You know, that is where it stems from. It's in my personal opinion. Because again, a 19-year-old person who comes in there and knows nothing about real estate, that's what the broker's for. That is what the broker is for. And again, goes back to a point I've echoed how many times now. Hey, brokers who are having $25,000 caps, what do you provide to the market? What value do you add? You don't even tell your agents to dress professionally. Guess what? You have tens of agents. You've got 40, 50 agents. Guess what? But they look horrible. They are representing your brand like you're just some sorority or fraternity on picture day. Woohoo, got some closings. You look like an idiot.
Well, it's like you said it all right out of my mouth. I was just going to go in on brokers. And because you're right, especially if a new person coming into the industry, they are looking for guidance. Any broker, any agent would tell you the class is, a tenth of what is actually involved in the job. Okay. That's where the guidance comes in, training. And again, you said it best. I'm going to leave it alone. Back to the dress thing real quick. You would think is like, not only are you representing the broker, but you're representing yourself. Like you're building your own business as an agent and broker and everything. Like, I don't know.
You know what? I don't get it, but you know what? Capitalism always reigns, and there's the thing is things like that, which creates outliers, which has created Outlier itself. So you know what? You guys keep doing your hunky-dory little fraternity and sorority picture days and screwing over your clients and your brand and what you look like, which sends a message to a lot of people that I don't think you realize. We'll do our thing, and we'll have standards, and we'll see who wins in the long run.
That's a great way to end it.
Yep. See ya.